months, I was diagnosed with a catastrophic brain injury. I had a paralyzation in the left side of my body. The injury was diffuse in the brains. It was a forcing function because I immediately had no more prospects of being an athlete. If you're Jamie Dimon, you're scared shitless of the foundational models like ChatGPT and Gemini replacing you. But they're a very precarious situation. Giving your money to a money manager is like low IQ. I think money management is actually kind of a scam for 80% of the market. They're just trying to extract fees from you. There's this huge cluster of something happening. So it's just a better system. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's more compliant. When we launched it, we raised about $60 million in our seed round. We had a lot of really good investors and advisors and engineers that joined the team. The fastest growing revenue startups of all time by far have happened in the last 18 months. So these are companies like Cursor. These companies are getting to like 100 million ARR in 18 months. It's like completely unheard of.
Today's guest is Trevor Koverko, founder of Polymath and Sapien. Before most people knew what crypto was, Trevor was already there, not as a speculator, but as a builder. Before the phrase security token even existed, he launched what is widely considered the first one. But that's not where his story starts. Trevor was on a very different path early in life as a professional hockey player on the New York Rangers, until a near life-threatening accident ended his career abruptly in 2011. Overnight, the identity he had built his life around disappeared. What followed wasn't a straight line into entrepreneurship, but a long process of rebuilding, learning how systems work, how capital moves, and how to create leverage in the real world. While still in university, he was already buying houses and founding companies. In his mid-20s, he crossed paths with the Ethereum founding team in Toronto and became one of the earliest believers in what that technology could become. Since then, Trevor has consistently been early to ideas, early to markets, early to infrastructure that underpins modern finance. Today, he's a serial entrepreneur with a deep understanding of investment banking, public markets, and how to use large financial systems to oxygenate businesses. He's known for building strong teams, showing and working with intensity. Now based between Barbados and Canada, Trevor operates at the intersection of entrepreneurship, capital markets, and emerging financial infrastructure. Welcome, Trevor.
Hey, Lily, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
I know.
On the Upwind podcast.
Excited.
You are like such an example of sailing upwind, right? From this early experience with this accident to your journey in entrepreneurship.
Downwind as well sometimes, but hey.
Downwind with the wind behind you and things are good, like the 2020s.
Downwind is good and upwind's bad.
Downwind's when the wind's behind you and it's easy sailing.
Okay,
right?
upwind, yeah,
so like
better upwind, yes. Upwind.
105K Bitcoin is like downwind.
Oh, okay, noted.
Upwind is when things, you have to pivot and you realize this direction doesn't work. We need to move backwards. We need to change tack, but you get to the mark eventually. And that's where all the strategy is. That's where the challenge is. Yep. That's where a lot of thrill, that's where the competition is. That's where you break away from the pack or the pack breaks away from you.
Got it.
I like sailing upwind.
Very fitting.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So before the accident, who did you think you were going to be?
Yeah. Look, I'm from Canada. I was a hockey guy. I loved it. I played it my whole childhood. And in Canada, you basically have to do it or you get deported. So I was like, it's like a rite of passage. But yeah, it was great. It was a very focused, singular kind of early childhood for me. And definitely learned a lot from that experience. And I think, especially looking back now, I appreciate that more than I did earlier on in my career, like some of the lessons I learned back in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hockey, seriously Canadian competitive sport. But you were obviously great at it to make it to the New York Rangers, like an American team.
Yeah, no, it's in Canada, or North America, there's the big four sports teams. Hockey's one of them. It's the smallest one, but it's still considered a top tier sport. But it's competitive. It's like a serious business. There's a lot at stake. And yeah, definitely for me, the highlight of my career was getting drafted to that league, and all the trials and tribulations that came before and after that was the cherry on top.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're 20 or 19, you're going towards this professional hockey career, New York Rangers, and then you get into this horrific, life-threatening accident in 2011. You would have been like 23 at the time.
Yeah.
And your life changes completely.
Yeah, it was a tragedy in some sense. I was diagnosed with a catastrophic brain injury, which is a medical term. It's like a certain severity. It's either catastrophic or not. And mine was, I was very injured. I had a paralyzation in the left side of my body. The injury was diffuse in the brains, so kind of everywhere, but it was concentrated to the right side. So it like affected the motor kind of motions of the left side of my body. And it was a severe brain injury. So I was unconscious for a while. I had to get airlifted to the emergency room. I was driving on the highway, so it was just like a huge collision with a transport truck. They had to shut the highway down for 4 hours both ways, which is actually one of the busiest highways in the world. And looking back now, it was an inflection point for me. And it was a new chapter. It was a forcing function because I immediately had no more prospects of being an athlete very abruptly. And I also, as I was recovering, and I'm very, very blessed to have been young and have a really good recovery, I had to kind of reinvent myself because I didn't exactly have a lot of marketable job skills in the marketplace. So I had to kind of go back to the drawing board. And I think if anything, what I did right and wrong in those days was just the mindset and approach I had of just like, can't do anything about it. You might as well try to get good out of it and see if I can reinvent myself in a new path. And looking back, I think you could argue it was a blessing in disguise in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything happens for a reason, but I mean, it's very hard to justify that type of happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you recover from your accident. You go back to university.
Yeah, so that's the thing, because I'm older at this point. Most of my peers have already gone through college, and I was just starting because I'm like, what am I going to do? So I'm like, well, I'll go back to school, get a business degree, and kind of went down that path. And I kind of didn't really fall in love with it right away, like schooling. And I was kind of on the path to get into a different line of work, which was like banking or accounting or something else like that. And it didn't like fit with my personality. And I was just like, okay, because I remember on college, they were doing these like on-campus interviews and stuff. And I'm like, there's like kids younger than me interviewing me for the job. And I'm like very fickle and competitive and stuff. And I'm like, this is not going to work. And I remember making kind of like a New Year's resolution. I think it was the first one ever of like, I am going to be an entrepreneur. I had one professor that I remember who did a lecture about his journey. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to do. And I actually made a pact to myself in a video saying, I've been at the height of the highs with like getting drafted to a professional sports team, flying on their private jets, doing all these like getting these huge signing bonuses as a early draft pick and whatever. And then rock bottom is being like stuck in a hospital where you have to like, I remember losing power of attorney over myself. So I couldn't even leave the hospital if you have a serious brain injury. So like I tried to like escape from the hospital a few times and I'm like kind of messed up mentally at that time. And I'm like, Mom, can I just go home? I don't want to be here. And she's like, no, you can't. You have to listen to the doctor. So I would like try to escape and stuff. It was like kind of funny.
Oh my gosh.
I remember one time
Lynn, poor Lynn.
I know, my mom. And I remember one time my brother, Ty, who my twin brother,
yeah,
came over. He was studying for his LSATs to go to law school. And he fell asleep. And I like kind of like tiptoed over to him and I like took my impatient bracelet off and like put it on him. I grabbed his bag. I like walked out. I'm like, hey guys, tell Trev good night. I'm just on my way out. And then I just like tried to escape. But it was like the middle of winter. I had no like money or anything. And I had to like kind of walk back in. That was my Mission Impossible escape. Yeah. Yeah.
Luckily, you had no money.
I know,
Luckily,
yeah.
it was -30 outside.
I know. It's probably for the best that I did not go and live under a highway somewhere to recover from my injury. But yeah, so I made that kind of pact to myself. And I was like, you know what? I've learned a lot about me in this process. I'm okay with, you know, being at the height of a industry, but I'm also okay being at the bottom. I moved in with my mom again. I was like, this isn't so bad. So it kind of gave me the confidence like, hey, no matter what, I have nothing to lose, because even at rock bottom, I'm kind of happy. And obviously things could theoretically be worse, but at the time it felt like rock bottom, but I was okay with it. And I was like, it gave me the confidence to know I got nothing to lose. I kind of very clumsily over the next few years moved to Silicon Valley, clumsily got caught up from some of the young kids that were there, but I just loved it. And I always remembered, and I always rewatched that video knowing like, this is the life I'm choosing. Like, I'm going to keep trying it no matter what, because if I fail, I'm okay with it. I learned that about myself. And if I succeed, I'm okay with that too. So I'm good with both.
Yeah. Yeah. So your early journey of entrepreneurship started. Do you want to talk about that early journey before you get to Ethereum? Obviously, it's a mixed bag of being in Silicon Valley, but you had a software company that you sold, and you started buying houses.
Yeah, it started out much more Mickey Mouse of like, we all wanted, when I did eventually graduate college, I thought I wanted to get into real estate for a little while. And that's kind of entrepreneurship. And, you know, I'm like, okay, how should I get into real estate? I'm going to find my smartest Italian friend and my smartest Jewish friend, because that's real estate. And we did. Me, Jared, and my buddy Mike, we didn't have enough money to start a real estate empire. So we like teamed up to buy one house, like one student rental. And it was kind of cool because like we could buy an actual house. None of us could buy a house individually. And then it allowed us to like slowly buy more and like refinance them and stuff. So I did a little bit of that. But real estate's it was a little too slow for me. I was a little too impatient. So I kind of worked out a deal where my partner would run it and I would just be like a silent partner. And then I could focus on kind of my tech projects more directly.
Yeah.
I was always a bit entrepreneurial. Like I did like Christmas, we sold logs. My parents like encouraged that a little bit. Like those, you know, those burning logs that you like light
for the
with
fire.
And stuff like that. But
So
but it was
10-year-old Trevor was selling logs around the neighborhood. Is that kind of what happened?
pretty much, yeah. We did some of that. But it was really, and I was doing like some like hardware CPG stuff a little bit, but it didn't really succeed.
Sophisticated.
Yeah, it didn't succeed. But when this is right around when Facebook was getting founded, and I started getting interested in tech, and that was when I really found my home is in that world, especially kind of the Silicon Valley culture and living there and spending time there. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is definitely everything. And that's kind of the blessing in disguise, right? Because I never would have done this if I was still a professional hockey player. Right now, the oldest players in the NHL are my age. So it's like the best of the best are still slowly fading away. And it's tough because after that, if all you do is hockey, there's not necessarily too many other things to do other than be a coach or a commentator or something. So, so again, that's kind of like
You would never found Bitcoin. You would never found Ethereum potentially.
No, definitely not. Because if you want to be at playing in these professional leagues, you have to be obsessed and you can't be distracted by anything. So yeah, blessing in disguise.
Okay, obsessed and can't be distracted by anything. I feel like you've definitely taken that over to your entrepreneurship world.
Yeah. I think on the one hand, you want to be singularly focused and obsessed, especially if you want to be a founder. You can't really have too many distractions and side hobbies and other companies. But I've kind of as time has gone on, have evolved into a, where I can do some investing, focus on my main project that I'm doing, and then also just stay on top of all the other trends and exciting things happening in tech, especially like obviously AI now is super, super exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. Okay, so you were living in Silicon Valley, and then somehow you got into contact with the early founding team of Ethereum.
Yeah, I was spending time between Toronto and Silicon Valley, and just like AI, actually, Toronto and crypto became an early kind of incubator for a lot of the talent and the researchers and the engineers that created the industry in a lot of ways. So Vitalik, for example, is from Toronto, and so are a few of the other Ethereum co-founders. And I was just dumb luck, right place at the right time. Like the early Ethereum movements were kind of meeting up in my backyard, and I would just kind of be curious, and that's how I got into it early on.
Right.
Yeah.
And then moving on, so that was like 2015 when Ethereum was founded.
Yeah.
And by 2016, 2017, you had founded Polymath, which was the first, you guys coined the word security token. Before we were talking about tokenization. Now you look at Davos, World Economic Forum, this is a huge topic. 10 years later, where the largest banks in the world are talking about tokenization as the future. And now you're here. Tell me about Polymath, what you saw early on, what you're seeing now.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I knew I wanted to do something in crypto, in Web3, before it was called Web3. And I'd be very active in the community before I started Polymath. So I would like go to the events. I didn't rush into anything. I wanted to really understand the technology stack and really try to find a problem to solve. And then I kind of saw I had an insight, and I think that's important when you start a company, is to have like maybe a unique insight that the market doesn't know about yet, or that no one else has done yet. And for me, I saw the progression of tokenizing things that became more and more tangible over time. So for example, when Bitcoin and Ethereum launched with their respective white papers in 2008 and 2000 teens, protocols were tokenized. So that was the first ever thing that got tokenized, were protocols. So the Bitcoin protocol and the Ethereum protocol were tokenized. Cool. And then a few years later, Cash gets tokenized with Tether in 2018 or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's even more real than a protocol, like quote unquote real. And it's like, oh, you can tokenize Cash, and like it's actually better. And stable coins now is also a huge freight train of an industry. And whoa, I didn't realize that more than protocols. And then a few years later, there was like NFTs, and I'm like, oh yeah, like that's even more like art and like new forms of digital stuff. And then we kept moving on and on, where I'm like, well, why can't this apply to other assets and other securities and other, stocks, bonds, real estate? And it turns out that's arguably the most benefited asset of tokenization is financial security. So that was kind of my insight, was seeing that pattern, seeing that trajectory, seeing that trend. And I finally realized, maybe instead of looking for a project to invest in, I was investing a lot at that time in companies like Block One that became bullish, and some other successful companies now. Why don't I do it? Why can't I start it? I have a bit of an entrepreneurial background, and that was my first kind of major project in crypto back in 2017 when I started it.
Right. And now we're here in 2026, and everything is being tokenized. Where do you see the next 10 years?
Well,
with Polymath?
The story is a little more circuitous than that, because tokenization started out really exciting. And when we launched it, we raised about $60 million in our seed round. We had a lot of really good investors and advisors and engineers that joined the team. Guys like Adam Dosa, who now work at Polygon. He's an amazing early kind of co-founder of the project.
Yeah.
And then it went dark. The industry really quieted out. It was like a brutal secular bear market for that subsector of crypto, tokenization, because everyone was focused on other things at the time. It was like layer one chains, and then there was like the DeFi, and every subsection of crypto got really exciting except tokenization and what's now known as RWA. And we really had to survive. Like, we're lucky we had a lot of capital. We're lucky that we we were conservative with our cash spend, but we still had that belief that it was inevitable. Like I saw that evolution happening, and I've learned it's never in a straight line and it's hard to predict. And now it looks obvious in retrospect because it is one of the most exciting areas of all of tech, not just crypto.
And finance.
Of finance. And you're hearing, like, I almost fell out of my chair when I saw Larry Fink and like these gatekeepers. Yeah, they're talking about how, this is going to replace the existing financial system, and trillions and hundreds of trillions of dollars are going to be tokenized. And so they were kind of our enemy at the beginning because they were very like, we don't think, they're scared of this disrupting themselves. But then they realize, hey, like Uber, right? Like it's coming, you can't stop it, and we might as well just accept it or try to benefit from it and lean into it. And they've decided to do that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool. I was at NASDAQ the other day in New York, and they were talking about the same thing, that heavy push into tokenization and creating a platform that is strong in that regard.
Yep.
Do you see the future stock markets being all on chain?
I think those will happen last. I think private markets, like why, I think it's important to talk about why do this at all. Like, what's the point of tokenizing? Like, we already have stock markets, we already have paper ownership. Like, what's better about this? And it's evolved over time. And right now, there's a really good corpus of knowledge and theses about why this is a superior system. So basically, the current financial system runs on legacy rails of like the Swift payment network. If you want to send a wire, it's insane. You got to pay like $20 and you got to wait. I remember missing out on a investment because I couldn't get the wire in on time. And I like wrote the number down wrong. And then I had to pay like an extra fee. And then it felt like the 1980s or something just to send a digital thing. It was crazy. And that's just for cash. Like if you think about the DTCC and the way that the system that the financial assets trade on, it's really outdated. They have settlement, they have clearing. It takes T+1, T+2, T+3. There's no modularization or like programmability with these things. So you can't like stake a piece of your house and borrow against it quickly. You have all these middlemen and intermediaries that like slow the process down. So there's new products that should exist that only like living on a chain can do. Like you can, tokenize your house, borrow against it on chain in like minutes, and then put that in a lending protocol, and you can get like 5% of a fully collateralized yield in minutes. And like compare that to the current system. It's like more than a 10x improvement. So just basically ripping out the legacy financial system that's built in some cases on like 1980s COBOL code. That's not 24/7. It's like everything closes. I don't know if you've invested in other markets, but it's hard as well. Like if you want to directly buy Chinese stocks, it's impossible, really. You have to like do it through derivatives and proxies and stuff like that. But on a global blockchain, like everything should be interoperable. And if you want to buy a Chinese stock directly, if you want exposure, you should be able to do that. And the legal component should also be automated. So like on a smart contract, you can have all the rules of accreditation of whatever the cross-border restrictions are. So it's just a better system. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's more compliant. I think we're seeing the first shades of that with the tokenization of money market funds, which is actually one of the biggest markets in the world, which is like US treasuries. And we're seeing like friends of ours like Carlos at Securitize like tokenize via BlackRock. Some of their best performing debut funds are tokenized money market funds. And it's the very beginning, and we're not seeing like crazy trickle down benefits yet, but as the benefits improve as more of it happens. So we're like at the very early innings of this. But you can see I'm excited about it because we've been talking about it for a long time. We can see a world where you open your Coinbase account, and just like you see Bitcoin, just like you see your USDC stable coins, just like you see your NFTs, you're also going to see your tokenized gold. You're also going to see your tokenized stock portfolio. And you're going to be everything's going to be interoperable and synergistic. So you can like borrow against one asset that you have, or you can rebalance automatically. You can use smart contracts to like execute trades, or put them in vaults where you can have like automated money market managers using AI to optimize which DeFi protocol you should put your stable coins in. So like I'm excited. I'm like a personal finance nerd and a Wall Street nerd. So seeing all these things converge, Silicon Valley and New York City and everything coming together is like super, super, super exciting to me.
Yeah. No, I can see the velocity of capital is nowhere near where it could be if we had better systems of organized effort. And we're starting to see that come together here to create far more financial inclusion than that exists right now.
No, that's a good, the inclusion's a important point as well, because when you say, you know, what's going to be tokenized, the stocks and bonds and real estate, yes. But I think who's going to benefit the most from it? It's like emerging markets that don't have these like super deep, super liquid, super advanced capital markets. So if you have a goat farm in Kenya, you're going to benefit the most from this. Just like, you know, you benefited the most from mobile technology and you might never have had a landline phone. You just leapfrog that to your mobile phone. Or for internet, if you just completely skipped having, you know, broadband and you went straight to Wi-Fi. That's the same thing with the financial system. Like we can just leapfrog over all the stuff that the US did and just go straight to on-chain. And they're going to benefit the most because you can access global markets now when you never were able to do that. And I think that's a good point. That's probably the most important part of this.
There's been a lot of talk, or there's been some talk around here about having one Caribbean stock exchange. Like right now we have one that's in Barbados and we have one that's in Trinidad, and they have very anemic markets, not much liquidity at the moment. How do you get everybody together? And I think the solution has to be tokenization as a part of that.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, moving on to Sapien, your new project. Tell me about Sapien. How's it going? What's your vision for that?
Yeah, no, I'm working on a new project called Sapien, as you said, and we are an open protocol for training data. And just to back up, it all started a couple years ago now. I was talking to a friend of mine who was a master's machine learning graduate student from Waterloo. And so for those who don't know, Waterloo is like our secret Canadian weapon. It's not all, but a good chunk of the top young engineering talent goes to Waterloo. It's like a hub. And we used to have a monopoly on those kids because we would be like founders that would recruit there, and like we'd keep quiet about it because it was like a little secret. But the secret's not a secret anymore, and like all the big tech companies in Silicon Valley now like have on-campus recruiting to steal them from us. But it's crazy. We had like guys like Vitalik came out of the University of Waterloo, even though he quickly dropped out. But it's kind of like up in where Stanford is. It's like in that kind of stratosphere of like really respected high talent. University of Toronto as well. That's where a lot of the modern AI came from. So Jeff Hinton's lab, where the modern AI boom started, when they did like an image recognition competition and won, and then it caught Google's attention, and that started the whole flywheel of AI. And then ChatGPT happened, and then here we are. But Sapien, my friend from Waterloo was talking about the next big bottleneck in AI, and I always thought at the time it was like, oh, it's got to be like chips and compute and data and electricity. And he's like, actually, a lot of that stuff is becoming commoditized. The big bottleneck right now is data. It's like getting access to high quality data that these models can train on, because we're getting this thing called diminishing returns or a data wall, where all these early models, this is like ChatGPT-2, ChatGPT-3, they're kind of hitting a wall because all of the data that these models train on, all of this open internet data, is used up. Like the open internet is, of all the data that's ever existed, is already been trained on. So how do we find new improvements? These models improve based on the quality of the data that they're fed. So a lot of people talk about the pillars of AI, and data is one of the pillars, compute is one of the pillars, and algorithms is the third pillar. But data is the algorithms are things like RLHF and different ways to kind of synthesize the data and the compute and put it together to like actually produce high quality performing models. So data, I'm like, cool. I like looking for problems. How do we think about solving this? And that started the journey to Sapien, which is kind of merging crypto and AI using the distributed nature and incentives of crypto to produce high quality purpose-built data for these new enterprise models that are starting to emerge. So these would be like Fortune 500 companies like Walmart want to build their own proprietary model. Or maybe a better example would be someone like JP Morgan, who are kind of scared right now because on the one hand, you have startups nibbling at your ankles that are like AI powered JP Morgans, and JP Morgan is really an investment bank. It's other things, but it's a service business. It's just a lot of, humans doing service work. And so that's scary if you run one of those businesses, because you look at these AIs and they can like already do most of the work that these companies do way faster, way cheaper, and way better. So we're seeing like threats from below for JP Morgan and those types of companies, like startups like Cursor. That's not a financial company, but like they're better than any other coding environment. And so now in finance, we're going to have startups that are way better at money management and way better at like investment banking and way better at all the things that JP Morgan does. So there's threats from below. And then there's also threats from above. So if you're Jamie Dimon, you're scared shitless of the foundational models like ChatGPT and Gemini replacing you. So you're kind of stuck in this awkward position. This is one of the biggest companies in the world, I think the biggest bank in the world, but they're very in a precarious situation. And so we realized that they have two choices. They can either adapt and lean in to this AI movement to make their business better and more AI native, or they can die and get replaced and slowly flame out to these new competitors that are going to do what they do better, faster, and cheaper. So for those who want the former, who want to survive, who want to adapt, they basically have to have a strategy. And that strategy can be they can leverage existing models or they can build their own. So a lot of these enterprises are realizing they have to build their own custom models that are built on their own proprietary data. And that's a key point, because in a post-AI world, the only competitive advantage that JP Morgan has is their data. And they have amazing data. They probably have one of the most valuable private corpuses of data in the world. They have like hundreds of years of, or 100 years of customer financial data and everything that they do. So they have this like, they store it on-prem, they guard it with their life, and they should, because that data that they have is something that even ChatGPT doesn't have. Because when I said earlier, all these models are training on the open internet, JP Morgan's data is not part of that. And if you actually look at the landscape of data, I like to use the analogy of an iceberg. So if you look at an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg is kind of like the open internet data. And that's like the tip. But underneath the water is private data. It's like the JP Morgan data actually dwarfs the open internet data. So I'm kind of like getting to my main point, which is the way AI improves now is accessing below the water, the ice, because the open internet data has already been trained on and it's not enough. Like these models are craving more and more data to train on. And so what we do at Sapien is we help these enterprises build models that are better in one specific vertical than the big foundation models. So you've heard of enterprise SaaS, right? Those are verticalized B2B SaaS companies. There's lots of them, and they specialize in a vertical because there's no one SaaS company that can do all of enterprise. Like you have a specialized SaaS for healthcare companies, a specialized SaaS for car dealerships, specialized SaaS for manufacturing companies. So we think, and a lot of people think, that AI is going to specialize in the same way, where you're going to have companies like JP Morgan that have the best quality data. They're going to be able to build models that are better than anybody else in that specific vertical. So that's my long way of saying we think enterprise AI right now is not pervasive, but it will be. And we're going to start seeing all of these Fortune 500 companies. We work with a lot of them. They're going to be building their own models just to survive and to maybe even thrive in this new post-AI world, because some of the fastest growing companies ever are happening right now. and not market cap metrics, because like market cap can kind of be hypey and not really be predicated on anything, but like revenue, like the fastest growing revenue startups of all time by far have happened in the last 18 months. So these are companies like Cursor. These companies are getting to like 100 million ARR in 18 months. It's like completely unheard of. And so that's kind of what, you can be scared about AI. You can worry about the end of the world or jobs being replaced and stuff. But I think that's the wrong mentality. Like, if you just look at what's happening, if you look at the data, it's the best possible time to be a startup. It's the best possible time to even be an incumbent. Like, if you lean into this stuff, you can run circles around your competition. So long story short, at Sapien, we help those companies build models that can outcompete the big models like Gemini and OpenAI.
Right. And mostly financial data. You're in that financial data space, not in the real estate space or in other types of data.
We're pretty agnostic, actually. So we've worked with companies like Alibaba. So these are massive, Fortune Global 100 companies that want to build their own models, all the way down to like little. We want to also help smaller companies too. So we've worked with some of my favorite case studies are like researchers doing pancreatic cancer research, and they needed to build a model to detect cancer. And so we helped them bootstrap a network of radiologists and pancreatic cancer doctors who would draw bounding boxes around an image, and they would teach the model how to detect cancer. So a lot of what we do is actually empowering humans to help structure data. Because when I talk about data, it's kind of like an abstract thing, but I think the biggest area of data that there's a bottleneck right now is actually having humans improve data. So a lot of times data is not all created equal. So if you have just raw unstructured data, you can think of it like a supply chain. So when you have like oil, right, it doesn't just come out of the ground as gasoline. You have to go mine and drill for crude oil. That's like useless. You can't do anything with it. But then you have to like process it. You have to like send it to the refinery, and then out comes the gasoline, and then you can put it in your car. So it's the same with data. Like, just raw data is like crude oil. Like, you can't really use it. You have to structure it. You have to organize it. And it turns out, a lot of that organization can be automated, but the best quality data now is from humans. It's like having human powered data that's ground truth data. It's more resilient to ethical problems because humans can like dictate what's right and what's wrong. And if you get enough humans doing it, you can like build a distribution curve that makes it resilient. And so another insight we had is that AI is actually creating jobs, not replacing them. And it's actually AI that needs humans more than humans need AI. Because right now there's a big plateau happening in a lot of the benchmarks of these models because, like I said, there's not enough new high quality human powered data out there. So what we've seen is a whole new category of work forming, which is human data labeling. So this is companies like Scale AI, Lucy Guo, I think is one of the founders. She's amazing, the youngest self-made female success story ever. And so anyways, she built a company that like empowers humans to earn a wage remotely, anywhere, anytime, any place. So as long as you're human, even if you don't speak English, you can earn a minimum wage by structuring data for these big AI companies. And if you think about it, that's actually pretty profound. Like, if all you need in 2026 is an internet connection and a mobile phone from Android for $30, you can earn a living wage by producing data for AI companies. And it sounds a little dystopian, I guess, but like, if you squint and think about it, it's actually, I think, one of the most exciting developments in my lifetime, that anyone, thanks to the internet, thanks to the demand for AI data, anyone can earn a living wage. And so most of the world can live off $5 an hour. And that's kind of a good benchmark of what you can earn on the low end of doing this data structuring. So I think that's awesome. I think if we live in a world where poverty is optional in most of the world. It doesn't mean you're going to be, living fabulously rich by just doing one of these data tasks. But it also means if you do have skills, you can get paid more. So if you are a radiologist or a doctor, you can make more money structuring data for pancreatic cancer research than you make by doing your day job as a doctor. And we're starting to see that where these models, and I feel like it's also more fulfilling too, because like, if you're a doctor working on one patient, that's super admirable. But if you're helping build a model and making it more accurate, that can help millions of people forever, I think that's also like a really exciting thing if you're debating about what to do for like altruistic reasons or something. So yeah, kind of going through the whole, we're very deep in the AI blue whale here, to use an upwind analogy. But yeah, it's just such an exciting time to be alive. It's such an exciting time to be young and to be ambitious. And I think we should just all be grateful that we live in a time where AI is happening in our lifetimes.
Yeah, certainly. So what I'm hearing you say is Sapien is a data refinery.
Yes.
So we had oil refineries, and we have oil refineries, which are obviously have given tremendous economic impact. But in 2026, the data refinery is the economic impact of our time, and we're starting to see it with Scale AI Sapien being able to empower millions of people around the world to make a wage.
Exactly. And just one other addition there is we're a different architecture. Like that's how we bring in crypto, is that we're a decentralized scale AI. So we use native crypto primitives. We call it ours proof of quality, which is a way in an open way, people can tap into our protocol to make human-powered data more accurate and more high quality. And so I've learned from not just my crypto career, but my Silicon Valley education, how important it is to find real problems to solve. And that sounds easy, but it's actually the biggest mistake people do. And so when we started Sapien, we didn't just rush into building a crypto project. We wanted to like solve a real problem. And we've been on that journey of getting product market fit, which we got before we launched the tokens. So we had millions of dollars in revenue. We had some of the biggest companies ever. We were working with them directly. We set up an office in China. Like we did a lot of the slow, hard, but fulfilling work in understanding our customers and what they want and what they need. And so I would say that's one of the biggest takeaways for anything I do in the future or anything I'm doing now, is just to really think critically about solving problems for your customers and like creating value for them. Because if you do that, good things happen. That's what Jeff Bezos always talks about, like be customer obsessed and always use that as your North Star, solving problems for your customers. So crypto, there's a lot of craziness that happens and a lot of speculation and a lot of unruly characters in crypto, but nothing's changed. To start a company, you need product market fit, you need to build a community, and then and only then can you launch a token. So we try to do that with Sapien, where we did things kind of sequentially in a step-by-step way.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. So speaking about investing, you're an avid investor yourself. You have an acute understanding of the investment banking world. We were just talking about JP Morgan. I feel as though you have a unique approach to your particular investing style. What do you think about 2026 in terms of personal investing strategy?
Yeah, what works for me doesn't necessarily work for other people. And my general advice on investing is to just keep it simple. I think there's sayings, like Warren Buffett type sayings, which is like, there's been more money lost in predicting a bear market than in the bear market. So a lot of people like read headlines and they get scared or they get too excited and they just make irrational, emotional decisions. So I think the general thinking, and I believe strongly in this, so this is something I really try to preach and practice myself, because it's actually really hard to practice, which is just like, don't follow the headlines. Keep it simple. What that usually means is just like buy an index fund. It turns out that just investing in the S&P 500 over time beats something like 95% of all professional money managers net of fees over time. So what that means is if you have $1,000 and you give it to a professional money manager, it's going to be more effort, it's going to be less liquid, it's going to be more confusing, and you're going to end up with less money in 10 years than if you just put it in an automatic rebalancing index fund. So it's low IQ. Giving your money to a money manager is like low IQ. I think money management is actually kind of a scam for 80% of the market, which is a huge multi-trillion-dollar market of managed money. But especially for individuals, like it just makes absolutely no sense. They're just trying to extract fees from you most of the time. So that's my general advice on investing: is just keep it simple. Low fees matter. Listen to Warren Buffett. He encourages that. Just like buy an index fund and just forget about it, and then have it compound while you sleep, and you don't have to like spend any energy worrying about it. The second thing you don't want to do is pick stocks yourself. I'm guilty of it a little bit, and I'm kind of scared to look at my, if I can beat the S&P 500 over time, probably not on a long enough time scale. But it doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of fun, because investing should be fun. And, you know, if you just think about it systematically and you put a small percentage of your portfolio to making stock picks or individual bets, if you really want to, that's fine. But I think generally speaking, for most young people, it's just like, keep it simple. Don't give your money to other people to do it. Just do it directly and forget about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's for most people. Trevor Koverko, what are you doing?
So I would be considered on the egregious risk scale, probably, just because I guess I can stomach it. And also,
you just said you're not afraid to move back in with your mom, and
thank you. And I'm ready to lose it all. You know, literally. So yeah, you know, so for me, that's like, you know, crypto stuff. It's also, you know, investing in startups. I don't recommend doing this unless you live in Silicon Valley and unless you have some kind of an edge, or you're doing it for other reasons like networking or something. But I love to angel invest. Like I slowed down a little bit just because I'm back in the saddle from an operations standpoint. But I've invested in probably 100 companies and startups in all types of different industries in Silicon Valley and crypto companies. And I understand how that model works. Like, you're doing it, you need a lot of companies, you need a lot of shots on goal, because like most of them are going to fail, but you need one of them to like really crush it to get to make it make sense. So that's a part of my portfolio. I have some real estate as part of the portfolio. I have a big chunk that's becoming bigger in what I've preached, which is like low fee index funds that kind of mirror the market. And it's good to use like a company like Wealthsimple, which I highly recommend as well, that kind of charges a little bit of fees, but they do a lot of the dirty work for you to like which ones to choose and rebalancing and tax loss harvesting and stuff like that. I also have companies. So like I have operating companies that I'm either running or the main shareholder of. And so I try to keep an eye on them too. And you got to kind of treat them like it's part of your portfolio, including the assets and the cash burn that they have. Because if you just kind of like put it all together in a personal balance sheet, you want to also specifically keep an eye on all of your companies that you've started or that you're a serious shareholder of as well. Other than that, you know, I do some other things. I'm a big cash flow person. So, and I encourage young people to do that as well. No one wants to. Everyone wants to just buy the hot sector. They don't care about company earnings. They don't care about dividends. They just want to like ride the momentum. But I don't think that's a good foundational strategy. I think it's important to understand that a company's price is predicated on its future earnings. And so that's part one. Part two is I like cash flow. Like if you wanna live, if you want to have wealth, you need cash flow. So what is that? In a low interest rate environment, it's actually very hard to get cash flow because dividends, can get overpriced. Like the price can run up compared to the dividends you get. Interest rates are low, so you don't get interest on your money, and it's just hard to get yield. So you have to move up the risk curve, and that's where bubbles happen when everyone's trying to chase risk. So anyways, I encourage people to always look for investments that put money in your pocket. That's what I noticed a book on the shelf here that I learned this from called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is like anything that doesn't put money in your pocket every month is not an asset. So if you own a house and it doesn't put money in your pocket, net of everything, it's a liability. If you own a stock that doesn't pay a dividend, it's not really an asset. It is technically, but it doesn't, in this model, it's not. So always look for things, whether it's royalties, whether it's streaming income, whether that was always a dream of mine, is like, can I at least get X amount of passive income per month to live on? So that means everything else is just, I'm playing with the house's money because I can like pay for 10 grand a month or something. That was always my goal. Can I get 10 grand a month in passive income? And then I can pay for my groceries and my food, and I feel pretty rich. 10 grand is, and I don't even have to go to the office to do it. That was like a mentality I had super early on. And I think it was healthy because then you evaluate investment opportunities differently. You look at the cash flow, but also I'll say you don't want to conflate strategies. So when you're investing in startups, you do not want to invest in cash flow. You are definitely not trying to get income from your startup portfolio. You want huge power law returns or death. Like you don't want, or it doesn't work. Like I remember I used to invest in like cash flowing tech companies, like private equity style, or like trying to get dividends from them, but it doesn't really work in tech. Tech is kind of, there are some private equity companies that buy B2B SaaS companies that can do it, but I don't recommend it for regular people because operating tech companies is very fickle. The market changes so quickly. You can't do it in a passive way. In terms of like buying websites and operating companies, I've done a bit of that over my career. But anyways, from an investing standpoint, I think my takeaways are diversification is extremely important. Especially if you're not doing this full time. And then secondly, just invest in the market, invest in stocks. Real estate, I'm not a huge fan of. It's just a lot of headaches. It doesn't, even after all the headaches, it doesn't return as much as investing in the stock market. Stocks outperform real estate on average every year over time. And they're less liquid, their risk-adjusted return is worse. So I think investing in the market, generally speaking, this is not investment advice, but it's what I do. And then if you want to have some play investments on the side, no problem. Just keep it within a framework where you're not putting like all of your 80% of your net worth into a meme stock. Like that is highly inadvisable. Even though you might do well on it, like it doesn't make it a good decision, and you should like tread very carefully there.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. That was super valuable. Super valuable feedback. Okay, so now if we were to go back to your super younger self, and it was 2026, like if it was 2013 or 20 now, or you were a young Trevor, and the world had changed significantly. The world's changed significantly based on all your know-how, all your knowledge, all your observation. Where would you start? And where would you be? Where would you be living? And what would you be doing?
Yeah, I have a very specific answer here. I would be in Silicon Valley. I learned this from Naval, actually. He's a famous thought leader in Silicon Valley. And he's San Francisco maximalist, not in an emotional way, but in like a statistical way. And he was at an event I was hosting, and he was just talking about San Francisco, and I was listening, and everything made sense. He's like, guess what percentage of millionaires in the world are in this small area of Silicon Valley in the world? And it was like 60% or something crazy. Like there's this huge cluster of something happening, and there's this network effect. And he would say, like, if you want to get into finance, you go to New York. Like, that's where you go. That's where good things happen. That's where the smartest people are in that industry. If you want to be an actor, you go to Hollywood. Like, if you try to build your acting career outside of Hollywood, especially, in the past, good luck, because like that's where all the cluster of talent and resources and people are. So right now we're becoming more, tech is not only growing, but the growth is accelerating, and the proportion of tech impacting us from a financial point system is accelerating. So what I mean by that is, like, out of the top 10 market cap companies in the world, 7 of them are tech companies, or 8. And back, even 30 years ago, it was probably 2. And so it's becoming more and more a big part of our everyday life. And obviously, look, like, how many hours per day do we spend on a piece of technology now? It's like most of the day we're in front of a screen, and algorithms are spitting out something for us to view and do work and do play and do leisure. And so everything is like consolidating into tech. And so what I would recommend is, where you live matters. And if you're serious and you're ambitious, like, you should move to the Bay Area. And it's ebbs and flows a little bit, and it did lose a bit of its luster, but AI has completely reinvigorated San Francisco to the point where there's nowhere else to be if you're in tech. And I really believe that. And I try to spend as much time there as I can as well. What I would be building and doing is very simple. I would be building an AI application. So most of AI right now is hyped around lower in the stack things, like chips. Everyone talks about NVIDIA. That's all you hear about. Or foundational models. That's another level up from chips. And semiconductors is the models like Gemini, Cohere, Anthropic. But this is all infrastructure. So what happens in these technological revolutions, same with crypto, is you need the foundation of the house first. That's like the infra. You need like the layer 1 blockchains, or you need the modems and the routers for the internet before that. And in AI, it's like you need the chips, and you need the electricity, and you need the data centers, and then you need the foundational models. But all of that isn't the point. The point is to get applications that people use. Same with crypto. Like, the point isn't to build a blockchain to have block space. It's to build applications that people use and benefit from. So like a Uniswap is people benefit from a decentralized trading protocol, a DEX, or a lending protocol like Aave. So like, these are people actually directly using products. And so right now, so much time and money has gone into building infrastructure. It's now time to monetize that by consumer-facing applications. So these are like startups that Y Combinator likes to fund, which is like Cursor. Cursor is built. It's a coding agent, or a coding environment. It's built on top of Anthropic. They didn't even build their own foundational models. They're just like building a front end. I'm simplifying drastically here, but it's great for founders, because like, you don't need all the stuff that you need is built, and you just have to like focus on the user interface that customers interact with. And that's very doable, achievable, especially in AI, where you can use Cursor to like build your app. You can use Lovable. I was talking to a guy yesterday who's in his 60s, and he built an entire gold and silver DEX on Lovable, which is like, you prompt the model what you want to build, and it builds it for you. It's not like prompting it, what's the average temperature this time of year, and this. It was like a text-based thing. It actually codes, develops, and deploys into production your application. So like, there's no excuse now. You can build an AI application. It's a hot market. People are buying it in hours. It's not even like weeks and months anymore. That's what it was like when I was starting. It's hours. So I would be building AI applications, native AI applications that use AI, that are selling into companies that want to use AI more. If you want to be a little easier than that, I would maybe do consulting for companies on how to use AI, and just like teach them how to use some existing tools. If you don't want to build your own tools, you can help them figure out how to use it, because you can add so much value just by being a kid who knows how to use ChatGPT really well. Like, you can help save companies, 60% of their costs, or you can help them find new markets and stuff like that. So I would be in AI, I would be in San Francisco, and I would build AI applications, not AI infrastructure. A lot of that has already been deployed, and a lot of the money there has already been made. I would focus on the applications.
Good, solid. Okay, we're in Barbados. You've been in Barbados now for almost 10 years, coming, toing and froing. Now you're set up, you're more established here. You could be literally anywhere in the world. What, why do you choose Barbados? Can you give me some insight on that?
I'm quite nomadic, not by choice, but, in our industries, I think face-to-face time is super important, even in today's age. So I try to force myself to go to a lot of events and travel around the world as much as I can. I think that's important, and it's easy to get lazy and not do that. But why am I in Barbados? I was recommended to come here by Deloitte. That was the original for a company that we were structuring. And so I would come here and we would do like a few board meetings a year. And then slowly over time, I'm like, oh, like, why don't we stay a little longer? And we just fell in love with the island. And so it's not my home here. I don't live here, but I come here. I spend a lot of time in the winters here. I got a place here now, and I just love the vibe, love the people. And it's a great getaway for me. And it's also a great place for work. I'm quite productive here as long as I got a good internet setup and my multi-screen office setup. I can work anywhere, but for whatever reason, I feel really focused and really motivated when I'm here.
Yeah. Just one last question almost. Why did Deloitte, of all the places, can you give some insight? Why did they recommend here?
Yeah, there's a technical reason. There's like a tax treaty with Canada at the time. So it was kind of like an obvious choice, actually. And the fact that it's a really cool place is just a bonus.
Yeah. I do feel that we have a growing number of tech entrepreneurs moving to Barbados, or spending more time in Barbados since COVID. We have the communities building and growing, and it's pretty exciting.
Feels, yeah. I'm noticing all the building. I like being in cities that are on the way up as well, that are growing. And there's not a lot of cities in North America now. A lot of them are losing people. A lot of them are not growing. Like when I go to other places in the world, especially Asia, like it's a completely different energy. Like people are motivated, everything's new and modern, and people are excited. So I like to be in places that feel like they're on the up as well, and people are moving there and businesses are being started. I like that energy.
Yeah. Trevor, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on the Upwind podcast, for being one of our early interviewees. Thank you. It was great having you.
Let's do it again soon.
Let's do it again soon.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.